be the basic shift.
But that was my point. A section.
No, that's why I don't think we disagree.
I think there's got to be a section in town where, whether it's the hospital, this is where you get high.
This reminds me of the college campus that wanted a free speech zone. I thought we lived in this free speech zone called America.
It's not the same thing.
It is the same.
No, it's not. If you're high, you don't even know what you're saying.
There's a corollary to that.
Well, you don't know what you're saying, and you're not high.
The reason the Swiss people accepted that is that they were told that this would somehow find a way to take all of these heroin addicts, and they would figure out a way that if they regularly had their heroin and they didn't have to run out and get it and worry about how they were going to get the next hit, that they would somehow be returned to society.
Can we stop lumping heroin in?
Not in all cases, but again, if we're out to kill heroin addicts, we've got the perfect strategy right now, which is basically you don't know what the product is, so we got people shooting up with dirty needles, we got HIV, we got hepatitis C, we've got women involved in prostitution,
we're not out to kill heroin addicts, we're out to keep them from killing other people when they're out on the street.
That's what we should be doing, so that they don't have to rob.
What happened in Switzerland is they come in 4 times a day, they get their hit, they have never gotten regular jobs, it's been a big failure. The American people want to have rooms here where people literally come in 4 times a day and they maintain heroin addicts.
But I think we may be saying the right thing. I don't want that person high in my house. Over there is good.
I don't want him in my house. This is not about saying okay to drugs.
Let the Swiss people maintain them.
Don't do drugs.
Okay,
but
please, my advertisers need a hit. We'll take a break. Poor Colorado, still on fire. Over 90,000 acres are burning out of control there. In fact, the smoke was so thick and widespread last night that even as far away as New Jersey, the Nets were choking. Yeah, President Bush met today with the Saudi foreign minister, Saud al-Faisal. As usual, they glossed over their differences and exchanged pleasantries. Bush called the Saudis an important ally, and al-Faisal named Bush Employee of the Month. Okay, fellas, please, let me interrupt this to start the show again. We were talking about drugs in America, but we really should broaden it out to be health in America. That is, I think, what we were trying to say, that drugs are a part of the health problem. But, you know, because they get all the heat, it's like the way the Arab countries have to focus on Israel. You're Israeli. Because otherwise they would have their people looking at them. They have to deflect from the real evil. Same thing with this country. The people who make poisons in America that are legal throw all the heat onto marijuana and the illegal drugs.
Relative evils. Relative. It's not... Look,
I ask again, McDonald's, way worse than marijuana for your health long term. I promise you.
Yes.
No one ever caused a traffic accident because they were high on hamburgers.
I think you're being naive. Plus, I think that... I think when you look at sugar, you're talking to somebody here who hasn't had a drink in 15 years. I don't do drugs. I don't do sugar. But I got to tell you, these sweeteners that have been added to our food, the food additives, the food that we consume, definitely anxiety, the health consequence, the health costs added to what it is that we consume. Again, it's enormous. It is a gigantic problem in this country. The correlation between the big gulp and diabetes is enormous.
Absolutely.
We're not recognizing that there's a consequence to what it is that we're consuming.
And they just passed this $190 billion farm bill. This pork-laden, putrid substitute for real legislation that basically encourages people to grow corn. Why? Because corn people make a lot of campaign contributions. And they now used corn syrup. It's called high fructose corn syrup.
Well, it's in everything.
It's it replaced sugar, which is bad, but they used to use cane sugar. But this stuff is cheaper, and the corn lobby got this through. So that's, if you chart the rise of this stuff, it goes with the rise of obesity in America.
You notice it's quiet, but you notice it's quiet. Nobody's arguing with you. Nobody here is saying that sugar is good or that corn syrup and all that stuff is good for you. I'm not sure that's the issue. You're saying that drugs
I am
and
saying
McDonald's
food
are
is
the
a
same.
bigger poison than drugs in America by far.
If that's,
I'm saying the commercial with Kobe Bryant, where a 3-year-old says, you know, if you help us win the championship, we get to go to McDonald's. You should have that commercial where he says, "Okay, we get to go and buy a pack of Marlboros."
Well, it
is the exact same thing.
It's ridiculous.
And
it is not ridiculous.
Without hitting McDonald's, there ought to be a component. There ought to be a component here of education to where McDonald's changes their diet. Which, again, long term, we're going to see that. We're going to see the fast food.
They're offering salads.
We are. We're going to see that change.
Their salads are as high fat as their burgers.
Hey, gang, let's go to McDonald's. Get a salad.
Yeah.
I got a low-fat dressing there.
By the way, the camera's still on. King Whore over here. McDonald's, if you're interested in a commercial for the McGrill chicken, Gene Simmons is right here.
All right, but Bill, you are not for the government regulating the kind of food you eat. I mean, that would be ridiculous. That is not the government's job.
The idea that the government is looking out for you, the idea that the government is looking out for our health is preposterous.
All right, but there are
the EPA today.
All right,
if the government cared about health, there would be health insurance. One of the functions of a government in a democratic society is to protect you from enemies within and abroad, to protect you from being murdered. And you look at drugs, people who are high and have their brains altered in seriously damaging ways commit a high percentage of the traffic accidents.
Well, concentration.
All of that is alcohol. Almost all of that is alcohol.
Well, almost, because
the legal one.
So you want to unleash a whole. You want to unleash a whole new
You're not going to unleash anything new. You're just going to redirect law enforcement to actually enforce the laws of people doing harm to others. That ought to be redirected.
You can't equate drug use with being a killer. You know, drug users because
I can.
Because
of course you can. Look at the traffic accidents. Look at the number of people driving.
That's alcohol.
I agree.
That's the legal drug.
You're telling me nobody causes an accident? You better look at the accident reports. It's been smoking marijuana.
Drug users are not killers. Some drug users kill. Some people who don't do drugs kill.
But you're not defending alcohol.
A killer is a killer.
No, I'm not.
So what you want to do is
genie is out of the bottle.
It's a specious argument. I mean, drugs do not make killers.
Gary is concerned about health, and I am too.
So am I.
450 million people.
Look at me.
450 million
I'm
people.
in horrible shape.
I
am very concerned about health.
I'm not going there.
I'm not likely to make it through this show.
450 million people a year. Hang on, die of causes related to alcohol and tobacco, the two addictive substances that we have legalized.
Well, but if there's shocking. Only 10,000 people a year die from cocaine and heroin.
Well, that's because it's illegal.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's because of prohibition. It's because they don't know what it is they're ingesting. Arguably, you could cut down on that number of deaths if they were taking prescribed doses, if they knew what they were taking. During prohibition of alcohol, you had people that died from their consumption of alcohol. People went blind. Would alcohol?
What are you saying?
And letting them kill us.
What are you saying?
He said it at the beginning of the show. Treat it like a medical problem and not like a criminal justice problem.
I get it.
What do you mean, what are we saying?
It's very clear that everybody here is high, but when you go over to somebody's, if you come to my home, what do you expect? A dip, potato chips, and some crack?
I'm not going to serve that at my home. I'm not going to serve that at my home.
Why not?
No, because that is a lifestyle that I've chosen.
But if it's legal, that's my question.
If it's legal, look, I have been to people's houses where they serve Coke at the table, you know? It's not that unusual.
And by the way, the dip and the potato chips will kill you too. We'll take a break. We'll be back.